Well, we're back on the road again, and I'm with James Wright, who's come on board. Has Tenley had to stay home and do a couple of appointments and some work, but we left Bahia Blue this morning, the Safe Harbor Bahia Blue Marina, where the boat lived for 5 weeks for the Christmas break, and now we're coming up towards the Sunbury Crab Company dock. So we'll tell you a little bit more. It comes recommended from a friend, Roger Long, who said, come and check this place out. So we've got a beautiful day here. So let's see what we're gonna find. It's time to get the bikes out and go and explore. So James is navigating today. This is James Wright, as I told you earlier. He's my new crew member for the next, who knows, could be 2 days, could be 2 weeks.
We have to decide if we want to go fort, cemetery, or town.
Nice to be back on the bikes again. It's been a while.
The Fort Morris Historic Site is a site where the fort once stood that protected the port of Sunbury during the American Revolution and the War of 1812. Time to head back to the boat, a nice evening ride, and figure out what we're going to put on the fire for dinner.
Good morning. It is January the 8th at 9:20 in the morning, and we are steaming down the Midway River in Georgia. The plan is to carry on down towards Darien, which is about 45 miles from here, so a fairly good run for the day. We'll see how we do.
It's amazing to watch the bottlenose dolphin glide along effortlessly in Snow Goose's wake at 8 knots.
So we're here in Darien, Georgia with local Tom Seibold, who is going to help us out because we were thinking about taking something called the General's Cut, but we were a little unsure of ourselves, and Tom has helped us out with some local knowledge. Tom, could you tell us a little bit about where it is and how we get through it?
Absolutely. It's an old cut through the rice paddies, and it's just downriver here to the right, past the big green tree. And although it does show 3 feet on the chart, I dinghied through it, and I've had this boat through several times.
What does this boat draw?
I draw 4.5 feet.
Okay, so we'll follow you.
Yes, well, with a well-protected prop, the keel will hit first, of course. And so you just come through the cut, you'll exit in the Butler River, turn to port, stay on the outside of the channel, outside of the bend, outside of the curve on the river.
Yep.
It's a typical river navigation.
And any landmarks down there we should be looking out for?
Not so much on the Butler River. Depending on the state of the tide, you'll see a sandbar on your right.
It's pretty cool to watch the brown pelican diving from a height of about 65 feet and a speed of 30 miles an hour to dive down for its food. The bird weighs in between 6 and 9 pounds and can live up to 40 years of age.
All right, so we woke up today dockside in Darien, Georgia, after a night of listening to some bad karaoke, and got going fairly early to catch the tide and take it through General's Cut, Cumberland Island, where we are now anchored, and on the west, sort of middle of the island, landed here at Plum Orchard. So we're here at the Dungeness Mansion, which is on the southern tip of Cumberland Island. This used to be Thomas Carnegie's place back in the 1800s and was abandoned by the Carnegie family in 1925. It's spectacular. We got here on a great day with no wind and beautiful, warm day. There's feral horses around us and the ruins, and it's a wonderful way to spend the day.
The armadillo are abundant on Cumberland Island. All species are native to the Americas, and this particular one can reach a length of 30 inches. They feed off grubs, for which they dig with their sharp claws. We were the only boat in the anchorage that night of Cumberland Island. No wind, a clear sky, made for a perfect night. On a calm day, one can be mesmerized by your own wake and watch it for hours.
Well, good morning here from Pine Island, and Pine Island it is in Florida. We're on the 12th of, what month are we now? January 2023. And it's beautiful. It's probably 65 degrees here today, a light southerly breeze, and we are in a creek where we anchored last night, and just a beautiful place to hang out. Peaceful, full moon, warm. First night that it hasn't been in the 40s. Last night was 55 degrees, so very pleasant.
Back on the road again, and this time heading to St. Augustine. And this is the sight that greeted us, these beautiful white pelicans. One of the best things I did on Snow Goose was install the Edson davits. This enables me to put the boat in the water in about 3 minutes, or the other way around, the reverse, hauling it out and securing it for sea in 3 minutes. I decided to grab a mooring off St. Augustine. For $30, a nice quiet ride on the mooring was perfect, and it was time to put the folded bike in the dink and go ashore for a ride.
Well, now I'm ashore in St. Augustine, and time to explore. Nice.
St. Augustine, with a population of about 14,000, is the oldest town in the United States. It was originally a Spanish military outpost founded in 1565. It was also the capital of Spanish Florida for about 200 years, and the beautiful architecture shows it. The Spanish ceded St. Augustine to the U.S. in 1819.
A smudge of rust back.
Well, that's one way to do the tour, but I figured I'd just do it on my bike and give you a little bit more of an authentic view of the city.
The beautiful fort of Castillo de San Marcos, built in 1672, is located in St. Augustine on the western shore of the Matanzas River, when Florida was part of the Spanish Empire. I decided to go back to reshoot the fort in good light because it was such an incredible structure.
Good morning from St. Augustine, Monday the 16th. We're heading south. Tinley's back on board. Chief of Staff is here. Everything will run perfectly now.
I can't decide whether to go to O'Galley or to Melbourne. I mean, I think they're right next to each other, but O'Galley sounds pretty cool. It's got this arts district, quaint historical district that strives to retain its cultural heritage and distinct early Floridian flavor.
Snow Goose's air draft is 19 feet. The boards on the bridge say 22. Do you trust him? You have to, but it's nerve-wracking.
Ho hum, Snow Goose.
Yes, ho hum air, over.
We are not able to get you on the other channels. We just touched the bottom at 81, but kept going, so I would have advised to wait.
Okay, what was you said you drew 3 feet or 3.5 over?
Yeah, 3.5. I'm going to keep it short. We're on 16, but yeah, obviously wait for the tide. 81's very shallow.
Roger that. All right, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
One sees a lot of beautiful boats along the intercoastal, but also a couple of very sad sights, an impetus to keep your eyes on the road. We had tied up in Titusville the day before to be ready at sunrise to watch the launch of the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. They were putting another satellite into space for Elon Musk's Starlink GPS system. What an amazing sight and awesome sound to experience. We weren't the only ones watching the launch. Florida's gray heron with its impressive 6-foot wingspan was there as well. The Kennedy Space Center at Cape Canaveral had been high on my bucket list for many, many years. And with our boat tied up in Titusville, it was an easy 20-minute Uber ride to the Kennedy Space Center. We were in for a treat.
Hi from the Kennedy Space Center here in Florida and Cape Canaveral, and what an amazing place to look at. Stuff that I so loved as a kid while growing up in South Africa and watching the Apollo missions with putting the guys on the moon.
The Kennedy Space Center has the retired space shuttle Atlantis. She performed 33 missions, totaling 126 million miles and 307 days in space. She was retired in July of 2011. It sure was incredible to see her in real life and how massive she really is.
Flying the shuttle.
The 363-foot Saturn V super heavy lift launch rocket developed by NASA for the Apollo program. It flew from 1967 till 1973. Here you see a real lunar module in a mock-up on the moon. Then the very impressive Apollo 8 capsule, which was just so amazing you could almost touch it, you were so close to it. And then a great display of astronaut gloves, a lunar shovel, and a lunar camera. It sure was nice to be back in a marina, especially a safe harbor marina in Fort Pierce called Safe Harbor, Harbor Town. And look at the size of this pool. I did a bunch of laps and it sure felt good. Then we moved over and sat down for dinner at Harbor Cove Bar and Grill. What a delightful little place to eat. Sunrise at Peck Lake on our last night on the anchor on the ICW, and it was off to Safe Harbor, North Palm Beach. So going through the intercoastal, you obviously get up this brown mustache from all the tannins in the water, and it stains the fiberglass. And so I use a stain remover to get the brown look off, because once you look on the other side, you'll see how clean it becomes. So I'm just going to get going here. Hello from Old Port Cove in West Palm Beach, where we are in the Safe Harbor Marina here. Nice spot in amongst all the big white boats. Our little boat here. It's safe, it's wonderful.
So I did some last minute provisioning today of some perishable goods since we're leaving shortly, and I went to a great Italian market called Dory's, and got a very heavy Yeti backpack full of milk and things like that, and a heavy box which handled greatly on the bike, and I got a pocket full of cash, which they say we need in the Bahamas. So we're set to go. Let's boogie.
Welcome to Safe Harbor, Old Port Cove, and it is Sunday the 29th, and this is our last stop on the Goose Goes South, and the end of the intercoastal. We actually have 3 more miles to go. We go to the inlet and cut across the Gulf Stream to the Bahamas.
So we've done 1,577 miles and ending up in Palm Beach. Anna has done how many nights on the boat?
77 nights on the boat,
Wow.
with a break in Savannah for 5 weeks for Christmas. But tell me, how many have you done?
I have
What do
no
you think?
idea. I don't know. I've missed a few weeks going back home, but now I'm looking forward to maybe a 2-month stint in the Bahamas and not leaving. So it's been a fabulous trip south, and now we head east.